is that?
I think Dad has made some excellent progress today.
Your dad, he's a fun guy, right?
And I love him so much, and I think he's the greatest dad in the world.
Welcome back to the Working on the Dad Pod. I'm Alex, he's Ethan, and tonight is our season 3 finale. We're here. It's the week before Thanksgiving. Ethan's going on vacation. We got lots of holiday plans. We're moving, we're shaking. Might come back with some new things in season 4. We always say that. Usually we come back with something new. So maybe we'll come back with something new. Who knows?
Maybe
it'll be a shirt. Could be anything. Could even be a boat.
Could even be a boat.
Exactly. Tonight, for our season finale, we are actually working on big medical events. I could probably use some workshopping, but we are working on some big medical events. What to do when you have maybe something that's a little less than expected, or it could be expected, how to handle that as a parent, how to handle that personally as a parent, how to handle that with your kids, both emotionally and strategically. Before that, we will do a little story time, and after that, we will be working on the dad bod for the last time this season, at least in recorded fashion. I think we're still going to work on the dad bod, but
more work
Ethan,
to do.
You want to start off story time, or you want me to start it off?
You know what? I'm going to start off story time with a curveball. This story is about my dad. Okay, instead of my kids, it's about my dad. So,
sure.
Happened yesterday. Very quick story. My dad calls me at work and he goes, "Hey, are you at work?" I say, "Yeah. Is everything okay?" He goes, Yeah. So I was just talking to your brother and he told me I should call you. And I'm like, "Okay. Is everything okay?" And he goes, "Yeah. He thought it'd be nice if we had lunch while you were in town, just the three of us." It's like, what is that preamble, Dad? That is, you had me scared.
Is concerning.
Yeah. And without getting into some detail, my dad shares other news pretty casually. That is a little bit more of the we should talk about something. Right. But this, this he went
text messages when there should be phone calls when there should be text messages. We'll get it figured out.
Yeah. So, Dad, I know you're listening, and I know that you were in the business for years of storytelling and drama, but pick your moments better. Okay, I love you. I'm excited to see you, and I look forward to this lunch. I'm going to order something extravagant because you made the phone call extravagant. Yeah. How about you, Alex? What's your story?
I'm good. Mine is a lot less comical. So I mentioned that I already teased this to you. You may not remember it because I teased it days ago. I teased it on Sunday when it happened. And if you guys will remember, we've talked about this in like episodes around getting ready for bed and about formulating routines and about stuff. But I consistently tell my kids that if you do not clean up your stuff by the time it's time to get ready for bed, I will throw it away. And I have always told other people that I am very willing to do it, that I have no complaint. Like, I think they have too much stuff. Some of it is nice stuff that was given by my parents, given by my in-laws, and some of it is junk picked up at a gift shop by my parents or by my in-laws. And hopefully those grandparents, especially any that are listening, know the difference between heartfelt gifts and things that they bought because a toddler said, "I really, really want it."
Yeah.
But set the stage. We've got some friends, close friends. They got a couple kids our age. I've alluded to them before on the show. We have started a tradition where every Sunday evening we have dinner with these friends, alternating between our house and their house. We just do a family get together, play date. They come over around 4, or we go over around 4, have dinner somewhere in there, and then come home by bedtime. Just a nice little way for the kids to get together. So these kids are over at our house. There's 4 kids, 2 of mine, 2 visiting kids, and we've had a nice dinner. My kids, all the kids, decide that they were going to play in their room. Great. Love that for them. Walk in, certain point, doors cracked. I look in. They have pulled out just about every toy that they could get their hands on, Ethan. And I am not exaggerating. They have in their closet a dresser, and they have, hanging clothes, dresses, maybe some collared shirts for my son. But then on a lower rack, they have dress up stuff. And that is like every costume that they've ever worn for, a Disney World trip, Halloween, you name it. My wife's got some of her old like middle school musical costumes in there. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of costumes. Every single one of them was pulled off the hanger and in the floor. Every single one. Was there a single costume on a kid? Maybe one, maybe a single one, but everything was on the floor. And I'm like, okay, it's 6:45. Go time is 7:30. This is still manageable. I walk in, and at 7:10, their Alexa goes off. Says, it's time to clean up your room and come get last snack. This is an automation that happens every night at 7:10 to mentally prepare them to clean their room and get last snack. I walk in there and I just say, hey guys, just a heads up. You've got about 20 minutes. You still got your friends here. They haven't left yet. You really should start cleaning this up. This is a lot of stuff. If you need help with something, you need to ask now, not when the consequences come. And I want to say this, and I want to say this clearly. If you are not going to move and do this, if you are not going to show a good effort here, because I realized it was so much stuff that I'm like, they may not be able to do it in 20 minutes, but I want their best effort. I want their A game. We take a B+ game.
Yeah.
10 minutes later, they had done as much cleanup in their room as the dog. Okay, so we are now at 10 minutes until go time. My wife comes in with a grocery bag, just hangs it on the doorknob, says, it's going in there. It's going in there. And I say, well, this is a lot of stuff. Flap a trash bag and go, blow that thing up. Say, all right, we might need more than this. Now they start scrambling because 10 minutes is like, I mean, again, every costume, everything was just out. And I'm like, 10 minutes, guys. And all the parents are trying to encourage all their kids to start cleaning up and start doing it. Now the kids start hustling. Well, I walk in 5 minutes to go. The 2 guests are cleaning. My son's doing a mediocre job. And my daughter is playing with this VTech brand smartwatch that she has. Oh, right. Boy. Kids level smartwatch has a couple of games, a really Nokia flip phone level camera on it, and like can tell you the time, has like an alarm setting. And she has decided that this is the time. She's like, I need to set an alarm so I can get up in the morning. Like, you've gone 7 years without this and you're fine. We just come get you. But yeah, prioritize this. Okay. Spoiler alert, the timer goes off. The timer goes off, and I'm like, I feel like I have sufficiently warned them. I look at my wife, I go, I feel like I've sufficiently warned them. I've even got backup from other parents being like, I feel like we've sufficiently warned them. I say, okay, guys. And now my kids are screaming because they hear it. The Alexa once again goes, it's time to brush teeth. Almost starts singing the Brushy Brush song from Sesame Street. Once again, plugging that, absolute banger. But they start singing that, and so they are just panicked because it is not all cleaned up. It's maybe 80% of the way there, maybe 90% of the way there. And I walk in with the bag, and I just start picking stuff up. And my children, in their lack of mental capacity to assess the situation, do not sit there and save and salvage what they can and try to hustle faster. What they decide is that this 5'11", 175-pound man that is bigger than both of them combined, they should assault him, and that's going to solve their problem. And I got to tell you, that didn't warm my heart to their predicament, because I was just like, you're kicking my shins and hitting me, and like, no, like, go pick up the things. If I like, I'm literally coaching them how they should be handling the situation. There are things I can't get to before you go get them, put them away. If they're not on the floor, I'm not touching them. My daughter's getting mad. I grabbed her pirate hat from this Halloween that she is still very attached to, but doesn't fit on her head. It never fit on her head, but she's mad. She's got that. I got a Stuffy in there, and Stuffies, that is gold bars to my children. They have hundreds of them at this point, but you touched this one that was buried and we threw around the room and wouldn't know existed if you had disappeared it in the middle of the night.
Right. No, I get
about a grocery bag full. They are furious. There's even points where the guest kids are like trying to block me because they see me pick up one of my daughter's books, and I'm like, this was just given to her yesterday. I'm just putting this back on the shelf. Like, please don't block me. Like, this is not,
right. Yeah, you're not helping.
You're not built for this. Like I'm not going to no. So it's chaos. My kids are crying. My kids are in tears. I'm feeling like not great. Like, you don't feel great coming out of that. But at the same time, this was to me as much a like, I set this boundary and I set this consequence. And like, they, I felt a little bit like Mufasa. You deliberately disobeyed me. Right. Yes. And like, I don't like that word a lot, but that's just how I felt, where I'm like, I warned you time after time that this was a bad idea.
There were so many opportunities.
Right. I didn't just surprise you. And my daughter was like, we didn't have enough time. And I was like, well, you had half the, and my wife and I are both like, no. And I eventually get to a point where my kids are screaming insults at me. I'm a dummy. I'm stupid. I'm this, I'm that. And I'm just like, I have calmed down. I have removed myself a little bit from the situation. I have enforced the boundary. The toys are not where they can get them. And I just start agreeing with them, because I'm like, I'm not going to banter with you about this. I'm not going to sink to your level and like release my anger upon you. I have enforced what I needed to enforce. So they're like, you're a dummy. I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. You're stupid. Yep. I hate you. I get that. And then I'm sitting there doing that. And because my daughter cannot live without a fight, she sees that her insults aren't getting, and she goes, look at you. You don't even care. You don't care what you're doing to your family.
Excellent.
She's sitting there blatantly not brushing her teeth. They end up losing their stories too, because they don't get ready for bed in any timely fashion. Like, they're furious at me. And then somehow I sing them lullabies and they want to give me hugs. And I'm like, I don't get it.
Yeah. Goldfish.
I tried to talk to them about it at dinner the next day. They didn't really want to bring it up. They didn't want to talk about it, because I did want to give them space and then have the conversation. We're probably going to have it at some point. And it may be before we go over to these friends' houses on Sunday or something like that. But, hey, what could you have done better? Because I think there's two opportunities there. Don't pull all that shit out. And then when we say, hey, this is going to be a problem, hear us.
Yeah, you put it away.
Right? Pretty simple. But the kids haven't really brought up the missing toys. And I'm like, because we looked through the bag, because I was just grabbing what I could. And then my plan was to look through the bag and go, are there any actual prized possessions in here? Or are there things that we could get rid of? And the answer was, they were all things we could get rid of. There were no prized possessions. So I'm like, okay, great. And I'm not actually throwing them away. I am going to donate, I have the bag in my trunk. I'm going to donate it at some point, take it to a thrift shop of some sort. But I'm like, yeah, everything looks in pretty good condition. And basically tell kids and I've started using that. I have now used that as influence over them, realizing, okay, this really matters to them. And instead of saying I'm going to throw it in the trash, I can say I'm donating it. Because when I tell them I'm donating, I get to go, if you're not going to show me you care about your stuff, I'm going to give it to somebody who does. Right?
Yeah.
And so I've actually used that a couple times throughout the week now, where my daughter had a thing where she and my son were fighting up in the top bunk. I separated them and I said, don't get back up there. And she goes, well, I'm not going to sleep if he's not in my bed and you can't make me. And I'm just going to make noise and blah, 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 blah. I was like, go to sleep. If I hear you make a peep again, I will come in here and I will tell you to stop. And when I tell you to stop, I will take one stuffy of my choosing and donate it. And then I will continue doing that every single time I have to come in here until you have decided that you will go to sleep. And so it's, it's like, I don't love, taking toys from kids, but at the same time, I both think my kids have too many toys. I'm not opposed to them thinning the herd. And also, I'm really not opposed to like using something they care about like that immediately and like related to what's going on to say, okay, this is a fair consequence.
Yeah, we regularly I regularly take away the stuff that my daughters want to keep in their bed, because sometimes it's the only way to get them to stop doing what they're doing. And it's, I give them fair warning. Just like, hey, especially in, a bad shower. It's like, look, if I have to tell you both to stop hitting the glass door again, then every time I tell you not to, you will lose a toy. And there were a couple times in recent memory when my wife comes in to get one screaming, and I say, 6 toys need to be removed from her bed. And you can do it, or I will do it when I get out. But, and I said, and she was so mean that she lost the right to choose which 6. Because sometimes, they'll be like, well, can you take these 6? Because if I'm taking 6, there's going to be pain inflicted. But,
Sure.
Once you get to that threshold, like no matter what, things are going to be bad.
They've always got a weak link. You can chop off 1. Maybe you got 2 in there.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, all the memories flood back and they're connected to the rest of them.
Yeah. Exactly. So then there's but sometimes like she'll get to choose, all right, which 6 toys do not get to sleep with you tonight. And that just that happens. I always think after the fact I should use the donate word instead of throwing the trash word. But sometimes, just even tonight, in the car on the way to my mother-in-law's house for dinner, they were choosing which songs they wanted to listen to. And then my older daughter was mad because the song that my younger daughter picked was too long. And then she gets, and we say, okay, we're pretty sure you get to pick the song when we get there. And she gets out of the car. She's pouty and she goes to her grandma and she digs her face in there and she goes, what's wrong? And I go, we told her that she gets to listen to this song from K-pop Demon Hunters here because the song her sister picked wasn't done yet. She goes, oh. And then she's like, my dad's so mean. I go, yeah, you live a really, really tough life. You had to listen to this other song. And in the car at one point, when she's like, it's so not fair, I go, we could put on Daddy's podcasts and we could listen to Dad's audiobook.
The number
and you can
of
never
times
pick a song again.
I go, you can figure out how to be nice, or I am buckling you in the car and we're listening to college football podcasts. And holy cow, you would think I was threatening to waterboard my children the way they go. Not that, anything but if I have been driving solo and listening to an audiobook or a podcast, and God forbid I start the car and then go help them with what I'm doing, and that thing starts playing for 5 seconds, it is like the Twilight bark in my car. No. I'm like,
it must be music. Yeah. Speaking of college football podcasts, for the first time I listened to the College Football Inquirer, Andy Staples' other show. He's the straight man in that one. He's not he's very serious. He's not that he's not as loosey goosey as he is with Ari, and it's
Okay.
it's a lot more serious, and it's a different side of him. Don't know how I feel.
Interesting. Nice side note.
Good
But
info.
yeah,
Yeah.
so wrapping up the story time, I just,
Sure,
it's one of those
sure.
where I hope that I don't have to enforce that. Again, it didn't feel good. It is the second time that we've ever had to do it, but my daughter,
Mhm.
the last time we had to do it, my daughter, I think, was younger than my son is now. And so like she
Mhm.
probably does not have a vivid
In a bit,
memory. And
yeah.
I'm like, this is the kind of thing that if this happens to has to happen once a year, one, I think that's the right cadence for like doing a little cleanup. And
Sure.
also like just reminding them that like this isn't me talking fluff, because that's the biggest thing. And I've told my daughter that quite often with the boundaries is like I have to keep my word on what I said, because if I don't keep my word, then the next time I promise you something, like that goes both ways.
You won't believe
Because
me.
my boundaries don't mean anything, that my promises don't mean anything, both directions. And then you don't trust me and you don't believe. And like if I say 7:35, I'm taking whatever food you have in front of you because it's time to brush teeth and you've had a lot of time for snack, I mean that I am taking whatever food in front of you. And she's like, but I just want one more grape. And I go, I understand that you want one more grape, but next time it might be, I want to finish all of this bowl of yogurt, or I just need to eat a whole other plate of dinner. And like, I need you to understand that like you have had time. You need to follow that, because the boundary has to be the boundary.
Right. So yeah.
Talking, let's switch from something totally serious to something totally serious. So main topic tonight, big medical events. Transparency, what brought this on. If you have been listening to our Working on the Dad Bod segment, and I know most of you tune in for that and you tune out the rest of the stuff, you just fast forward through the episode. This is worth saying.
Absolutely.
But if you've been listening to the Working on the Dad Bod segment, you'll know that about a month ago, I was just sort of like, hey, the guy that's always prioritized like strength training is all of a sudden, like, oh, I do a little cardio, is all of a sudden been like, I got into running. And the reason for that is a few weeks ago, I went to the cardiologist. Now, backstory on me, I was born with a congenital heart condition. I have had no less than 3 heart surgeries in my, like open heart surgeries in my life. Great. Up until this point, been working pretty fine. The last one was 24 years ago that I've had any work of any kind done on my heart. So I've been, doing pretty well. I'm 36. That means I have gone 2/3 of my life without anything. And I think because of that, I kind of just was like, I'm over it. I'm good. I'm not going to need anything. Well, I go to the cardiologist, and one of the side effects of my condition needs to be resolved with essentially a heart valve replacement. Not essentially, a heart valve replacement. And so that is what brought on the cardio. I am having this operation in January in our season premiere, which will definitely be after that point. I will be happy to let you know how that's gone and how that's how my recovery's gone, probably in the Working on the Dad Bod segment kind of thing. Or I
will have a new co-host.
Or you will have a new co-host. Congratulations to your dad or whoever fills that seat. No, not the message we're trying to send tonight's episode.
No.
But I did want to talk a little bit about what happened to me. I know Ethan's got a few similar experiences, both in his past and potentially in his future, as well. And just talk a little bit about how I handled that mentally, both good and both bad, what I learned from it and how that could relate to anybody. And I don't think it has to be specific to heart conditions, right? Ethan's future thing, not to give too much personal information here, but it's also heart related. But we are at the age at 36, and people that would listen to this podcast, dads of young kids, once you get over 30, and especially if you're over 40, right? And as you continue to get older, like there are more and more things that can happen. Your risk for cardiac events goes up, yes, but like if you use, tobacco products, your risk for lung problems goes up, your general risk for cancer goes up. Like you're more likely to need regular colonoscopies and all that kind of stuff. Like you just got to take care of yourself. And so it doesn't have to be, oh, I need heart surgery, but it could be, oh, the C, the big C. It could be a lot of things that just like, oh man, I've got to manage high cholesterol, or I've got to manage my blood pressure, or I've got some kidney problems, liver problems, developing prediabetes, diabetes, whatever, that warrant some internal reflection and then talking to your kids about it and how you appropriately do it. So Ethan, is there anything else you want to say sort of in that preamble there?
Yeah. So as Alex alluded to, I also have a heart condition. It's not the same kind that Alex does. I have something called a bicuspid aortic valve, which impacts about 2% of the population. Basically, there's a valve in your aorta that for most people, it opens with three tubes. I've only got two. The result of that is that in this tube, there's a little bit of like blood that leaks out. And so it pools in my heart. And every year I go to the cardiologist to check and see if that pool has gotten any bigger, because with every pump of blood, it swipes up what was leaked. So as long as I'm staying at the same spot, it's really not that big of a deal. They said that when I'm in my late 50s, probably early 60s, not probably, but that's the age range, I'm going to definitely need it fixed. They don't ever recommend doing it early because technology in this field gets better and better. So by the time I have to do it, maybe like it could be all with under an hour kind of thing. Sure. So it's just something to look forward to, I guess. Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator himself, had this exact same procedure around the time he turned 60. So, it happens to the best of us. And so I've got that on. Yeah, exactly. The best of us and me. And, so I mentioned last week, I had my physical. I'm a little shorter than I once was, apparently. Mm-hmm. And
at least it's not grating on you where you bring it up every week. At least
right. Yeah, no, I'm definitely over it. But as you can see in my little tagline here, I have it says I'm on hypertension watch, and I actually am. So my blood pressure was 132/80. Now it's supposed to be quote unquote 120/80 is normal. I guess anywhere once you hit over 130, you are at level 1 hypertension. Now, my doctor said he doesn't really ever trust the blood pressure machine in the room because usually people don't like going to the doctor. They want to get over it. They're not their like normal self. They could be feeling antsy. So he said, get yourself a blood pressure cuff. I did. And take your blood pressure a couple times a week for a month and tell me the results. So I'm doing that right now. It's looking more and more likely that I do actually have hypertension, but hypertension stage 1 is not terrible in that there's nothing like you really can medicate for it. But just something to watch, because obviously we don't want it to get worse. And
how often do you measure close to dinner time? Just out of curiosity, not saying that your blood pressure may be going around that time, but
yeah. Well, I definitely am doing it later in the day because I'm no longer teleworking, and I don't have time to get it done in the morning before I take the girls to school and go to work. So, it's time stamped. I got one that works with the iHealth app, which I downloaded, which syncs to Apple Health. So, when I talk to him in a month of data, it'll have all the timestamps, and he and I can talk about what we need to do. So I'm not overly concerned. I mean, it's good. This was a good investment in that I now have a blood pressure cuff that I can use easily.
Sure.
Yeah. So, like Alex mentioned, as you get older, I'm now at that very old age of 37. I've been on borrowed time for 7 years, as I believe that every day over 30 is borrowed time, biblically so. And,
That's not how
And
people die at their 30 all the time. Infants died, and they took the average.
yeah, whatever. I'm just saying every day over 30. It's borrowed time.
No.
Yeah. I've had 7 years of borrowed time. Consider myself lucky.
Okay.
And yeah, science hashtag stuff. And yeah, so I will say that the in addition to having to check for more things and being on more alert for stuff, got to get back into the habit of some other doctor's appointments and do some things. But did the blood work. My overall cholesterol is good, but my bad cholesterol is mildly bad. But overall, however that works. So, I would say not to get too much into working on the dad bod, but just between, the doctor's appointments, the fact that I've been sick recently and just can't seem to fully get rid of whatever phlegm is in my system. I've just been like my workouts. I'm a little more tired.
Sure.
My workouts haven't all been A pluses. And it's frustrating because I was doing really well. And I'm still doing fine. Like, I still ran 4 miles today. I didn't run 5, but I ran 4, But it's, and then of course I'm doing the rowing machine and I say, well, I didn't do the full 5 miles. Let me do an extra 10 minutes on the rower. And at literally 39 minutes and 34 seconds, I do 1 row and my lower back hurts a little bit. And I'm just like, really? 9 minutes and 34 seconds extra, and my back hurts. This is insane. So, old.
Well, to that point, I mean, we'll get back on topic here in a second.
Yeah.
The thing I've always heard is that consistency is the king on all that kind of stuff. I've had plenty of B+ workouts over my time working out, and just showing up, right? Because even if you're doing a little bit less, and if you think of it it's not really true, but if you think of it you could be gaining or you could be losing, right? Your cardio ability, your muscle mass, your whatever, fat goes both directions. You could be gaining, you could be losing, kind of could be staying the same. But it's every A+ workout, you're gaining as much as possible. Every B+ workout, you're gaining maybe a little bit less. But your C workouts, where you just kind of show up and go through the motions, you're at least just not declining, right? You're not back in the hole. So I think there's a lot to be said about just showing up and giving whatever 100% looks like for that day. But
that's actually something you said, I believe, in season 1 when you were quoting your wife and something she used to say to her personal training clients.
She had a whole blog post about this. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just even just doing your C grade workout, that's better than not doing anything. And showing up
it's don't let perfect get in the way of good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Quite simply. But back into the more specific health news things. I think where I wanted to start with this or dive into is just sort of your own mentality, right? As the patient in this scenario. And I think for me, I pretty vividly remember, 2 of my heart operations. 2 of my open heart surgeries were before I was 2 years old. I had something done through cardiac catheterization, which is they stick something in a needle, it goes up to your heart, and they can kind of do microsurgery that way. And then I had a full open heart surgery at 12. And I vaguely remember the thing around 9 years old, and I very distinctly remember the open heart surgery around 12. Spent a week plus in the hospital during the time of the College World Series. I remember watching a lot of that and playing a lot of poker with my dad in the hospital. But I remember then, and I thought about it now, just very much having a reckoning with my own mortality, right? You made the joke, and I'm not there, and I'm past it. You're not touching on a sensitive spot.
Right.
But when you first get the news, and I think this will probably pop back up a few days before or the day that I walk into the hospital, but this idea of like, I might not make it, right? Like 99.9% chance kind of stuff. They can't say 100, and so I can't say 100.
Right.
And that, it like affects you because you're like, I think it'll be all right. I have to trust the doctors. And what's the alternative? Like, and this is where I have to get to. And I think for anybody who has something that is potentially life-threatening, like my condition, right now, I am fine. I am functioning fine. My heart is operating fine. But my right ventricle is enlarging in such a way that it will become dangerous inside the calendar year if I don't get this valve replaced and release the pressure on my ventricle.
Right.
And it will, and so it becomes to the point that, yes, if I don't do this, I will die. Like at some point, not the day after the surgery or something like that. My doctor was very much like, if you want to get it done before the holidays, I was like, I got a Disney World trip to Christmas. She was like, yeah, you can do it in January. I'm like, okay, that's my signal for urgency. I must be, I must not be that bad.
Right.
But that mentality of like, okay, I got to get myself right because I can't just be like breaking down, at work, at family dinner, just going, oh, I might die. Right. You've got to trust the doctors and you've got to recognize that, especially if you're getting something like this or like a cancer diagnosis or something that is life threatening, that it's like the option of not treating, like the treatment could kill you. The disease is gonna kill you if you don't get the treatment. Right. But reckoning with that mortality of like, you are a little bit between a rock and a hard place, but the hard place is a lot softer than your mind might make it out to be. So that's sort of the first thing. And then the second thing, after I wrap my head around that, I spent probably 10, 15 minutes just in the car. I threw on some music in the background, just soaked in my feelings, and I started driving because I had about an hour drive ahead of me. And I called my wife, first person I talked to discuss it. And I think kind of like me, my wife has never known me when I've had to have heart surgery, right? We didn't know each other when we were 12. And so she's a little bit like, oh, damn, because she watches it. We work out together every day at the gym, right? Like, and she's not someone who goes, well, he just goes to the gym. She's like, she's a personal trainer. She knows how hard I work out. She knows my physical capabilities and is like, seems fine to me in my professional non-medical opinion. And so it's a little bit like, oh, damn, your heart's not great. Okay. Like, dealing with that. So that's step 2. And I think getting yourself mentally and then making sure your spouse is, I don't want to say on board, but like you have to get yourself strong so that if your spouse is not the kind of person, my wife's not like this, but like your spouse may not be the type of person that handles that news well. And they may start freaking out about your own mortality, and they may start freaking out outwardly in your direction. And it is not a healthy thing. You're freaking out and they're freaking out because nothing's going to be productive. Because I might be able to freak out at my wife and my wife will tell me everything will be okay. And then once I'm settled, she'll be like, yeah, no, I thought it, but I wasn't going to tell you that I was thinking about it. Right.
Yeah. And it's, I'm glad that, when you first told me that you were having surgery again, and, when I said to you something along the lines of, how serious is this? And you said, I'm having surgery in January. And I said, okay, so it's not like they told you need to
get in there.
We're cutting you open tomorrow. Right. So like when I said, okay, like, so how like concerned should I be? Like, it's heart surgery. I'm very concerned.
Right.
I made that joke
going
because
to go on our like guys trip.
Right.
Of, like mild mid-30s debauchery before my surgery. So
right, exactly. So yeah, I made a joke because that's how I cope with things. But it's similar to, and I was getting into that because I've talked a lot about my high calcium issues on this show.
Sure.
And the cause of the high calcium, and I forget if I've actually said it on air, is something called parathyroid adenoma. And
Mhm.
I've got basically these 4, like your parathyroids behind your thyroid. You got 4 of them. Each one of mine has this little adenoma. Like I guess it's not quite cancerous, but it's not benign by any means. But little growths. And some of the impacts of that is high calcium and an extra amount of your parathyroid hormone. Now,
Yeah.
in a weird, so like if this was the cause of the high calcium, my parathyroid hormone would also be high. I also, in this whole thing, they thought, well, you have lower vitamin D, so your body could be producing more calcium to counter that. So, I take a vitamin D supplement every day. I take a medication called Sensipar every other day that lowers my calcium level. But I also, when I met with the endocrine surgeon, he was not gung-ho about cutting into my neck to get out the
Sure.
parathyroid adenomas.
Sure,
Because
sure.
he said if your parathyroid hormone was up, I could tell you with 99.9% certainty that if I cut those out, your hormone levels would within 20 minutes go back to normal, because that's how direct it is. But because your hormone is normal, I have no idea if cutting them out will help you. And I said, so what you're saying, in your professional opinion, as a guy who likes to cut things out of people,
So you're telling me
that-
there's a chance.
yeah, is that I don't need you to cut into my neck. Because if you do, it might not do anything. And, worst case scenario, I can't ever speak again. And he goes, yeah. I said, great. So I'm like not going to do it. And he goes, that's fine. So I had a different conversation with you, and it's like, where everybody, and when the surgeon goes, let's just treat this medically instead of surgically, it's like,
Right.
all right, let's not do it,
Yeah. And
I definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely with my whole heart thing trust my cardiologist pretty well, right? She's not going to be the surgeon, but she's the physician, and I have a fairly rare condition. When we have had friends of ours that have gone into medical school, or people I've known that are doctors, and they find out I have this condition, it's very much like, wow, I read about that in one of my textbooks, right? And like, it feels like a wild animal kind of thing. It feels a little like a zoology experiment. My cardiologist, her sister has the same condition as I do. And so she frames a lot of our conversations. She's like, this is what I tell my sister. And I'm like, all right, fine. Okay. Like, she's just not gung-ho to be like, let's get you into surgery because you need it. She's like, this is what I tell my sister. And I have been going to her for at least my daughter's whole life. And she has always been like, we're good. We're good. We're good.
Mhm.
We're watching, just like yours, right? It's very similar to like your condition of like, there's probably going to need to be a surgery at some point, but we are waiting. Like, we don't want to do it preventatively, possibly because we're starting the clock on the next one when we do that. But also, like, we just want to make sure that it's actually at a point, or that it's going to progress to a point that it's going to necessitate surgery. And so it just got to this time. It just got to that point. And so, and I think that's like, I think back even before we talk about the mentality of us and a spouse, like, just sidebar PSA, if you are one of those dudes, and I know this is kind of a stereotype where like there's a thing of like dudes, and I know this doesn't apply to you or myself, but the stereotype of like dudes will only go to the doctor if their wife schedules the appointment kind of thing, where they're just like, oh yeah, I feel fine. I feel great. Like, I don't need to go to the doctor, like whatever. And the wife's like, I want you to go to the doctor. And so they go to the doctor, and then something happens. Now that's highly anecdotal, but it's enough of a stereotype to probably have some validity to it. If you are one of those dads out there that's just like, I don't need to get my annual physical, or any checkups. And I'll be perfectly honest, I don't really get my annual physical. I probably should, and I definitely will, because my out-of-pocket max is definitely going to be hit by the end of January on my insurance. So I might just like flood it up, just get everything done at some point during 2026. But don't neglect it, because that's how you catch these things. Like I quite often find going to the cardiologist, because I go to the University of Miami, which is 2 hours away from me, I find it a pain in the butt. I have to work together between two medical systems that are right next to each other to schedule multiple tests, get them all coordinated on the same day, and hopefully a clinic visit, so that I only have to take 1 day off work, because even going for one of these tests would necessitate that I take the entire day off work. And I'm like, and frankly, I don't really want to drive to and from Miami. It's not the most fun drive, just straight down the interstate into chaos. So I'm really like, I very much like am averse to going to I'm like, you have made it so hard for me to want to come here. And so it has made me sometimes, instead of going 1 year, 2 years between appointments, a couple times. And so I'm like, just grin, just bear it, just take the day, just put in the legwork, just make the phone calls, get all the tests on the same day. If they can't get them on the same day, cancel and reschedule for first available, and like force them to get their shit together. But it's worth it. And that's definitely a true stereotype, to the point where I went a couple of years without an annual physical. But it's not because I needed my wife to schedule it for me. In fact, I'm way better at going to the doctor than she is. The truth is, in both a blessing and a curse, is that my insurance, you don't need a referral to see a specialist. And I see enough specialists for all my crap where I'm like, if something was wrong, the specialist would catch it. Because and even though that's not necessarily true, in my mind, they're all doing blood work, right? They'll all see not true, and yet I believe it, and yet I justify it mentally.
Right, exactly.
My cardiologist would tell me if I had colon cancer.
Exactly. I mean,
no, they wouldn't, but okay.
No, but they'd be like, we noticed something weird in your blood marker. It's like, okay. And that's how I ended up finding out about the parathyroid stuff. I actually went to it was actually an annual physical, and she was just like, your calcium's a little high. I don't actually know what that means. Go see an endocrinologist. And then, the endocrinologist was like, oh yeah, this is why. But then, there was something else that wasn't exactly her field, where she was like, do you have any, she looks at the blood and she's like, do you have any, other conditions? And it's like, yeah, no, I have this, this, and this. And it's like, oh yeah, great. That makes sense. So, they all see stuff, or at least the ones that, I see would tell me that something looks odd. If it's not their specialty, they won't diagnose. But, they're all checking for baseline same stuff in the blood. So I at least think. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
And I mean, this kind of you alluded to the insurance, and mine goes the same way. But one of the actual catalysts for me wanting to talk about this tonight was obviously my own personal situation of filing my open enrollment today. And so that tis the season for open enrollment across, a lot of employers and things. And that does bring me to I am not going to get into the weeds about what you should do about your insurance. You should look at it. But one of the things that my wife and I constantly do is, one time I went to the cardiologist and she said, everything looks good. I don't need to see you for 2 years. I knew that I was not going to have a lot of high-end medical testing. And so I changed my health plan year to year, almost year to year, based on what I expect my medical costs to be. And I might back those up. But I think there's something that if you are the type of guy that doesn't schedule things, do the math on the various health plans. And for this year, say, you know what? I'm not going to do this for another 3 years. And maybe that's not don't take this as medical advice. But if you're not going to do it for another 5 years or something like that, make this the 1 year you pay for the good insurance, and then just do it all. And then go back on the cheap insurance and forget about your body, but give yourself and everybody else the peace of mind. I don't know. I actually switched up my insurance this year, knowing that I've got something coming in January between the two options, because I was like, this one's got a lower premium and a higher out-of-pocket max, but the math tells me that I'm going to save more in the premiums because the out-of-pocket max isn't that much higher, right? And so, I did a little bit of homework there. Do your homework on your own insurance plans. If you're getting employer-sponsored healthcare, talk to your HR about your situation. Go into as much detail as you feel comfortable with, but that's what they're there for, to help you break that stuff down. Most companies have benefits specialists who can say, okay, this is what you're going to get. This is what you're going to get. And I'll be perfectly transparent. I went into ChatGPT and I said, give me the average cost of this procedure. And I am not recommending you do that for every procedure, but the number it came back with was approximately $45,000 more than any out-of-pocket maximum I could do. So I was like, okay, I'm clear to just evaluate these on their values.
Right.
Here are the numbers that I have. Here's my premium, my co-insurance, my out-of-pocket maximum, my deductible, yada, yada. What makes the most sense? And they gave me some things. I then verified them through other sources, and I came to my conclusion. With the advent of AI tools, you can sort of speed this research. If you don't want to have the awkward conversation with HR, have it with a computer, because that's not awkward.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah.
I've been pretty happy with my health insurance in that when I joined the federal government, there's a lot of options to choose from. And I ended up going with the option that's basically the exact same as the health insurance that my mom had my brother, my dad, and I on. So I was like, I'm comfortable with this. It's a manageable premium. I love that I can just see a specialist if something's wrong. Most places take it. So, I went with that. And for the most part, we never hit our deductibles really. So even between the four of us, but it really came in handy because, for those of you who don't know a lot about insurance, there's self plus one, and family. And family is basically three or more. You can have 10
do
kids
we want to get into before we get too much into do we want to get into these numbers? Because I feel like this may be eye glazing or something.
I simply just wanted to say when we were pregnant the first time, my wife's insurance, if she stayed on hers and we didn't switch to family before that pay period, the out of pocket to have our first baby would have been $6,000. With my insurance, which we switched to, total cost was $175 for a 5-day hospital stay and a baby. So do your, like Alex said, do your homework, ask questions,
do your homework, look at your things, and check, make sure you're checking with your spouse, your partner, and figuring out when their open enrollment is. Unfortunately, my wife's was a month ago, so we didn't get to coordinate a lot, right? Her company did theirs at a kind of off the wall time, and so we just kind of are I guess we're sticking with what we've got. But yeah, so because we need to work on the dad bod a little bit, and we're getting a little long in the episode, but the last thing I wanted to talk about, and I'll touch on this pretty quickly, is telling your kids. I have told my kids that I'm having heart surgery because my biggest thing is that I wanted to be, I didn't want to just go down to Miami for the weekend and act like it was a vacation. And then when I got back, go, hey guys, so for the next 6 weeks, I can't pick you up. No explanation, I want them to understand what's happening. I want them to have the maturity, especially my daughter. She's old enough to understand it, and let them ask questions, right? And they took it pretty well. I was I've got to have a heart surgery in January. They're going to have to replace a valve. it's some, and so I just want to let you know, Mom and I are going to go down to Miami, and I'm going to have the surgery on a Thursday, and I should be back that Sunday evening. And my daughter was like, oh, okay. And because she knows enough about me, she was like, yeah, you've had this done. Like, this is the stuff you had done when you were a kid, right? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, okay, so you'll be fine. I'm like, thank you for your concern, kid. Thank you for your concern. Yeah. But I also appreciate it because I'm like, now she knows where we stand. And by jumping out in front of it, I was also afraid of her, depending on what mood she's in, having some big emotional reaction, letting her ask the questions and like the thrown away toys, getting it over fairly quickly, but not surprising them with it as we're about to leave town or anything.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's good. I haven't had anything particularly serious since I've been a dad to talk to them about. So
yeah,
I'm sure. I
think it dovetails. You could probably go back to our giving birth, our birth stories episode, not us giving birth, but becoming dads episodes, and like the ones with our second births, our second kids. Where you're like explaining things. It's the same kind of thing. Like you dumb it down. You're not giving the birds and bees conversation and those pregnancy conversations. And just like this, you're not going to be like, so they're going to stick a needle in my crotch and take a hole up and, fix my heart or whatever. You're not giving them all that detail, but you're like, give them the chance to ask questions because they may have questions and they may be the dumbest questions you could think of, but they're very real to them. And I think it's the same kind of message as if you're having a second kid. Like, hey, your emotions matter in this situation, just like mine, just like mom or dad's. Your emotions matter. What do you got?
Yeah. And, this week, and this week when I got the blood pressure cuff, I've been doing my blood pressure checking in front of them because they watched their grandma do it. And they go, you're doing what grandma does. And I said, yeah, doctor wants me to check. And they go, does that mean you're sick? I said, no. They just like to check. They just want to know. They want to see what the numbers are so that I don't get sick. And they go, okay. Can I use it? No, absolutely not. So it's like, I can't let you mess up my app data. But so.
Well, let's work on the dad bod a little bit before we wrap up here. I can go first. So it's been a pretty good week for me. Making progress. As I mentioned, now that you guys know the backstory of why I've been running a little bit more, it has been like I want to get my heart in as good a shape as possible before they operate on it, so that I can recover as well as possible. So that's just, and my heart health is not where it needs to be. And this is kind of one of those things, like my own heart is just kind of going like this very steadily. And I just want to fight against that tide. Because when I was 12, I had trouble walking around the block. By the time I got close to surgery, right? It got bad. And I don't think I'm going to get there now. I don't feel like, I don't know that it's the same symptoms manifesting or whatever, but I just want to be fit as a fiddle when I get in there. So it's been going well, doing the running. My speed's going up. My distance is going up. It's not 4 miles. It's not what Ethan's doing. It's not what my wife's doing. My wife has all of a sudden gone from, hey, maybe I want to run a 5K to like, well, now I think I can run a 10K to like, okay, I'm going to run a half marathon. And I'm like, come on. Like this is baloney. Like, who wants to do that? That's boring. That's so much. But my shoulder, which has been the real big issue, honestly, in the more near term, is getting a lot better to the point where I have been able to, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 2 days a week, keep up with my weightlifting for the last 2 weeks. I'm mixing in a little more rehab than I might at full strength, but being able to do weightlifting and running 5 days a week is really helping me. And as the weather continues to cool down here, and like I'm getting like a little bit excited, I'm like considering, adding more workouts in the sense of like I don't have more than 40 minutes, but what if I woke up at 5 a.m. and went for a run and then did my lifts at the gym? I don't know. We'll see where that goes. Find out next season on Working on the Dad Pod.
I'm a huge proponent of running before lifting, mainly because I'm a huge sweater, and I sweat less when I lift.
Bench nice and slick,
nice and gross, exactly. So yeah, I mentioned earlier, these last couple of weeks haven't been my best. We're between last week and this week, I'm up 4 pounds. I'm not going to chalk that up to like anything consistent. I just think, I've been fluctuating a lot since being sick, and I'm hoping that, by next season, I can tell you that I've hit my goal of 170 pounds. And I've bought and will hopefully have bought new clothes by then, with the present from my parents. So, overall, I think it was a really good year for me working on the dad bod in terms of consistency, weight loss, prioritizing the workouts. We're going through a lot of like stuff at work right now where I'm getting pulled into multiple meetings a day that are going well beyond the allotted time. And there have been a few days where my workout time has been lost because I can't just get up in the middle of a meeting and say, yeah, I'm going to go to the gym while everyone else stays in the room. It'd be a bad look. So, I've had to be a professional, not work out some days. But I'm hoping that while I'm gone in Los Angeles and, I'll be there for 10 days, maybe they'll figure out all the things that we've been meeting on and I can go back to things being normal. So doubtful though. I'm pretty sure there will be meetings when I come back. But anyway, thank you, the millions of you, for working on the dad pod.
The year, because you said something before you sign off where you're like, it's been a good year for working on the dad bod. And like, I have not gotten where I wanted with the weight loss, but I was just checking my like scale app.
Mm-hmm.
Last time I weighed 180 pounds or more was 2024. I have stayed under 180 pounds the entire year. There is one 180.0 and fine, we'll count that. I have not gone over 180 pounds for the entire year. And I'm like, you know what? I'm actually like, that is a huge win because
that's huge.
I have always been, the kind of guy that like, I'll lose some weight, I'll gain some weight, I might lose a little more, and then I'll stay maybe in a weight loss territory for a little while. But I'm like, I am taking that as a big win with a job.
That's a huge win.
With kids, with all sorts of stuff. Like, I haven't gotten down to 175 with consistency, and I definitely haven't gotten down to 170 at all. But like, I woke up this morning, I was 177.2. Fine. Maybe I'll get to 175 by the end of the year. Maybe I won't, but like, doing all right.
That's great. Yeah. That's awesome. So, like I was saying, thanks for working on the dad pod and bod with us all year, to the millions of you out there. We had a lot of fun. I think we did more episodes this season than last season. We had our dads on. We had Dave Ubben from The Athletic, which was really, really cool. Maybe we'll have some more guests next year. Maybe our wives. No, we had our friend Eric on. Maybe our wives will actually listen to an episode, which is yet to happen, which would be really cool. Maybe we'll have them on the show. Who knows? But
we're gonna try. My wife's down. We keep bringing up topics on like Wednesday, Thursday, and I feel like we need to be more coordinated with that. Maybe that should be.
Maybe we'll be coordinated.
We take 3 months and like actually get our act together here.
Yeah. So, and everybody, thanks for also working through the emotional roller coaster I've been on this year with my career, and that we have all gone through as a country. We don't need to get into that. And yeah, again, thanks for being here every week, especially our dads who taught us how to be dads and came on the show and talked about being dads.
All right, I'm going to play.